In today's episode of the Pathway Presents podcast, I got a very interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Jason Dzamba, who is hailing over from the folks at OpenBots. He's the director of marketing relations, and today we want to really deep dive into OpenBots, right? Basically, OpenBots allows you to build unlimited business process automation robots for your organization so that you can, basically let those robots do the work for you. So today we want to really deep dive into what this is all about and how the company and specifically how Jason is thinking about growth for OpenBots. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Lucas. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Cool. So maybe give us a quick 360 overview. What is OpenBots all about in your own words?
Sure. You mentioned something at the beginning about this word intelligence. So it's a buzzword that's happening in a lot of tech circles. So at the core, at the beginning, it's RPA, robotic process automation. But what's happening now is that there's a broader aspect of automation, and it's intelligent automation. And what this means is OpenBots is an intelligent automation platform. So it has capabilities that, like you mentioned, are 360. So it starts with that task automation. But then there's intelligence brought into with the IDP tools that have machine learning, artificial intelligence. But then we also have it, part of the platform is to manage the interaction between humans and these automations that you build. So anyone that's in the market for an automation tool, they'd be interested to know that not only is it a platform for these intelligent automation practices, it also has a 60 to 70% lower cost than any other platform in the market because it does not have bot licensing fees. So that's the basic overview that we have so far. So yeah.
That makes sense. Now, maybe tell me a little bit about what types of organization benefit the most. Is there a certain scale they need to have, a certain amount of processes, certain depth of processes they need in order to fully, leverage the platform? Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
People get excited about automation, and from what we've seen is that it's so broad what you can do with it, which is beautiful. You can automate any task, but it makes it difficult for people of any industry to understand because it's just too broad. So we work with specific industry like healthcare, banking, finance, oil and gas. So it applies to a variety, but the most helpful thing is what is the characteristics of a process that's automatable? So I'll start there. So this applies to any business. If you have tedious work that is heavy data entry, think about a customer service agent or in a contact center. They have to open a program to look up a file or information with a client. They have to manually put that information or take that information and put it into a system like their CRM. So these are tedious, basically soul-sucking tasks that make you feel like a robot. These are things that we want to automate and pass that off to an automation. So the human, the individual, the employee can do high value, high quality work. So that's good for their own experience in their office, in their company, but also it's great for the business too, because now they're taking a lot of the time, there's a lot of highly trained professionals. I can think of the oil and gas industry that we're working with. You have these people that are highly trained and they're spending a lot of their time doing minutia, doing data entry that they shouldn't really be doing. They're trained and they should be servicing clients. Think about healthcare. We spend a lot of time connecting systems in healthcare, but there's a lot of medical coordinators, doctors that are spending their time inputting patient records into a system and then reconnecting to other systems. So what we want to do with these processes, where can we offload this mundane and tedious work that is necessary, but it's not necessarily necessary for a human to do it. It's great for an automation to do it so they can focus on high value tasks.
Makes complete sense. Now, who would because somebody has to have that foresight, right? Somebody has to bring it into an organization. Like, who's typically the champion within the organizations to bring an OpenBot? Is that like, does it come from a CTO? Does it come from the operational team because they just see too much manual work happening? Like, who's typically the champion if there is such a case as typical?
Yeah, there is. But so let me back up too. So there are folks that are new to RPA, and the conversation can start bottom up, top down. It really depends. So it could be an employee that says, hey, wait a minute, this is cool. I can automate parts of my job so I can do other things. So they can communicate that to the team. Those folks that are in kind of at the operations level, they understand the needs, the challenges almost the most because they're in the trenches. So that's part of it, is educating those folks. The CTO is great, but we see that the CEO is becoming more involved, the leadership, because they understand there's been a lot of hype about RPA, but they understand the value. They don't always know how to communicate about it to their people, because there is fear in the market. Oh, well, if I automate a task, will it take away my job? And there is an element about efficiency that you can maybe not hire as many people because you have processes. But one part that we do in OpenBots is we need to educate the market in that it's a tool that enables your people. It's not a replacement. The technology is not a replacement for employees. It's a way to augment what they do and empower them so they can focus. And what we see is the leadership does not really understand all the way about how to have that conversation that say, hey guys, don't be afraid of this. This is great technology. Your work-life balance is going to be better. You're going to do things that you enjoy more. That's going to give you a satisfaction, but also that's going to contribute to a different kind of growth for the organization.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. Now, how do people learn about OpenBots? Right? How do they, hear about you guys, and what is the channels that they're working through? We actually had a quick chat prior to the recording. That you guys been, through a marathon to build up the awareness really on OpenBots. Maybe tell me a little bit how they learn about you today, but also how you got there. Obviously, as a short summary of that.
Yeah, and this, I'll frame it in a marketing sense too, because this can apply to a lot of different businesses and startups. So OpenBots has been in the market for about 2.5 years, and some of our main competitors are ginormous. So UiPath is one of them, and they're the market leader, great company. They're in the billions in terms of revenue, so they're massive. So it's been quite a testament in a short term to have people compare us to global leaders like that in a short term. And so the way that we were able to do that, and it goes back, I don't know if your audience or you are familiar with Grant Cardone and the 10X rule. It's something I used to work for him. And so I've tried to bring that here. But the first thing is that no one's going to buy from you if they don't know you. If there's no visibility. There's so many tools to gain visibility. We spent a lot of time on developing content for LinkedIn. And part of the first year was getting out of obscurity, getting OpenBots known in the market. And so that just took a lot of consistent effort. It took a lot of, training the market that, we're here, and we've been consistently delivering more content than any of our competitors, from articles, from podcasts. Like, we create a ton of content, and that's really how people know us now. They're like, hey, we've heard a lot about you guys in the market. And that has been the opener to many questions, or many conversations, about what we can do for them. So the content has driven a lot of opportunity for us. Mm-hmm. And then also the credibility factor, we're getting a lot of credibility with, these reports. And that's the thing. After they know you, they have to trust you. And a lot of the time they need to see like third-party reports, like something on Forrester or these kind of things. So that's part of our goal too, is working and collaborating with people who have authority. And we've done that with the relationships first. When we started, personally, like when we started, part of what we wanted to do is, like you're doing here, we have a podcast, and we invite other leaders and rub shoulders with them, exchange ideas. And that association is what helping to build our network and build our community.
Gotcha. And, for, let's say, marketers who are listening in, who are sort of in that uphill battle to sort of build awareness, build, and as you mentioned already, volume of content is helpful. Anything else that you can give them on hand that you went through in the last 2.5 years that you think was contributing to you guys building out that awareness?
Yeah, so every conversation that you have with a person that's there's an opportunity to have unlimited content. That's what I always think about. How can I, for instance, this conversation, we could take it and we could write an article about it. We could have 10 different posts. We can chop up the video. So how can we repurpose what we're doing? And not always, yes, we're creating it, but we want to document the work that we're already doing. And so when we just document and repurpose it, then we can just scale faster. So I think those organizations, those newer companies, the startups, they need to realize what they have in front of them. If they have a conversation with a prospect, how can you document that and turn that into a piece of content that's going to give value to your audience?
Makes a whole lot of sense. Very cool. Now let's talk a little bit about the website. Like, what role do you say the website would play in their journey of getting to know OpenBots if they head over to openbots.ai?
So that's always, the website's crucial. We have thousands and thousands of visitors to our website, and that's definitely the opener. People look at us on social, and then they're going to go to our website and check us out. And so it's always the thing about any website is that it's got to take an iterative approach, right? It's not going to just be like the waterfall method where you have a website and it's brochure. It's got to change over time. We just started something new with this new program. It's called Made with OpenBots, and what we do is it's a new video series that we highlight these companies that build solutions with our platform. And the reason why we did this is very clear. It's people that are looking at us, they need to see what's possible. Because I mentioned earlier, it's so broad what you can do with automation. People need to be narrow and focused and say, wait a minute, I could do something like that in my business. So part of that is the website is there to bring in people, but to narrow the focus to see like, hey, wait a minute, I like that. I want to have more of a conversation. If I'm in healthcare, how can I apply that to my team? If I'm a medical coordinator, how can I apply that to my team? But mainly the website is educational, right? There's tons of articles. We have an RPA Academy, and part of this industry has been education. We have a really robust academy. We have trainings there for people that want to become certified on OpenBots. So that the educational piece is huge.
Is there anything that you've learned with the team or even prior to the work with OpenBots, when it comes to actually that traffic that you mentioned, to actually getting that into, sales conversations or trials or whatever the goal might be? Is there anything that you've learned when it comes to, I don't know, copywriting, approaches, methods that helps to, actually, lift up the amount of people that actually convert into those goals?
Yeah. So we have a sales team. So they do outreach, and we have inbound. We have a lot of leads that come in inbound because of the efforts that we do. We have, hundreds of leads. So we're fortunate that way. We have a marketing budget, but maybe from your audience, maybe you don't have a huge budget to get these kind of leads, which is totally fine. But that can also be an advantage too, because you have to be a little bit more tactical. So to answer your question, so for email specifically, email is still valid. It's still a valid tool to filter your audience. And that's something that we started with broad emails. We've got our databases, probably about 30,000 plus, the engaged amount of maybe, 8,000, but we groom through those different messages. And what I've learned there is simplicity and a direct offer goes a long way to filter these leads. So we'll send out a short email with something that's valuable that someone would want to download and look at. And then we will follow up with them based on that specific conversation. And that seems to really work well because it's targeted, but gotta bring the value first. So if we have a company that's new to RPA, you got to understand your customer that they're going to need to know what's possible with RPA, but not just in the broad sense, but in their niche. So you use that tool to have a very focused conversation when we do, and we reach out by phone, email, and also you've got to be willing to talk to people. I see, and this is just in general, it's very annoying to be spammed on LinkedIn. A lot of people are doing these kind of like canned spam things, and it's just generic. And especially now, after COVID, the human touch is so important. So we've recently just changed having a video first approach to, our sales and marketing. We do that in our content. We have tons of videos, but even in the sales process, no one wants to, it's a crappy email sent to them, some generic email, but adding that human touch to every point of contact. When you reach out via LinkedIn, you have a 30-second video that talks about something that's relevant to them. It's just another way, but adding that human element in any kind of part of the funnel, that's helped us a lot.
Makes a whole lot of sense. Jason, as we're slowly approaching the end of the interview, I would want to throw some rapid fire questions at you to get to know you and your journey a little bit better. Are you ready for those?
Fire away.
Very good. What is the last book that you read?
Oh, okay. So, well, I have this tendency to read 4 or 5 books at once. Yeah. So just today I ordered 2 that are in the intelligent automation space. So I'm reading this one by Brendan. It's a leadership book. I can't think of the title right now, but it's a self-improvement book, but I'm all about productivity. Personally, I teach people how to be productive and how to be efficient in their own work-life balance. So a lot of the books I read are about that focus. I've got one I really like, one of my favorite authors. So it's about courage, and let me see the name of the book. Oh God, he just has a new one too. This dude is an awesome marketer. Oh, his name escapes me right now. Oh, he has ego is the enemy, and let's see, ego is yeah. So Ryan Holiday, I don't know why his name escaped me, but he's one of my personal favorite authors. I have his book about courage, and every book that he writes, I've read most of his books, but I'm working on that one. He's got a new one about discipline, but I would suggest anyone that's interested, not just from a marketing standpoint, but a personal management. His a lot of his work is based in Stoicism, but he applies it to modern day. So he is a marketer, but he applies it so you can use it personally and professionally. So it's someone that I would recommend.
That makes sense. What's the one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Clarity. Yeah, clarity in our market and our position and assessing the needs quickly. So clarity is, I think, underrated. And that's something that every organization can spend more time figuring out. Why are they doing what they're doing? Who are they trying to communicate with? What are they creating? What do they want to create? Clarity is key.
If there would be one thing that you could fix, right? If there's no boundaries in technology, what's the one thing that you would fix for your role as a marketer?
One thing that I'd fix for my role. I'm a bit impatient, so I want things to happen. I wish I could just transmit what I know to a prospect, so I could save them time. So yes, if I could fix that, it would be shrinking the timelines. Because in our industry, a lot of people have this mentality of, yeah, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while to execute this, our budget and all that. There's no excuse, especially when you work with a platform like OpenBots, because we are so, it's a no-brainer. It's so cost effective that I wish we could jump ahead a year from now to have that mentality built in. But that's our biggest struggle, is understanding, wait a minute, it's not 6 months now, it's 2 weeks. We can make a decision and we can implement it. 2 to 3 weeks, we can have a solution that can change your business. So shrinking that timeline right now, the mentality in general, is something that I'm working towards.
Very cool. And for the very last question, if we do a little bit of a time travel and we go back to Florida State, right, university, you're heading out of formal education. You were, I think, in creative writing, into the world of marketing and the different aspects of the roles that you took on. What's the one advice you would give yourself?
Yeah, so that was an interesting time, because I'm what you may not know is I'm a musician. I've been a musician and composer for over 20 years. So at that time I was heavy into, not really into business. It was, all the creative elements. So that's the thing, it's going to change. The focus is going to change. One thing that any kind of, I think I would say what I've been good at is learning how to learn. And I think a lot of people need to remember that every day is an opportunity to learn something, maybe from your team, maybe from yourself, from your processes. But I see sometimes there's a closed-mindedness, and that's where things kind of break down and say, oh, I already know. Well, no, knowledge is infinite. So there's no way you're really going to know, and to be open-minded to learning as much and as fast as you can. That has always served me well.
Jason, I really appreciate you took the time with us today, right? Gave us some great insights on OpenBots, but also on your journey. I think that was a super interesting and valuable to deep dive in. We really appreciate that. I want to give you the very last word, right? If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed about OpenBots today, what's the one thing that they should remember?
Yeah, so just get started. If you're in a space, if you're working with a company that has a lot of mundane, tedious tasks, then consider the OpenBots platform. It's for the creatives. In my role, I'm creative, and actually a lot of the stuff I do, you can't automate, which I find, it's great. That's why I love it. But there's a lot of businesses out there that need change, and a tool like OpenBots, you're going to be seeing more about it. So it's easy to get started. If you have a need, then reach out.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pathway Presents.
All right. Thank you. Enjoyed it. Thank you, Lucas.